Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight, we have a total smorgasbord of brand new stuff that I am looking to bring for all of you. Yeah, I don't know what was up with that countdown. It was just stuck on 9, so I was like, let's just start. Why not? So here's what's going on tonight. I have a number of fun things, the number being probably like 7, that I want to do with you guys. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off, we're going to kind of run this almost like a Whiskey Dick episode, except with a lot more interaction, hopefully, from you guys. And also, there's going to be a giveaway during this. So the giveaway is going to be kind of interesting. Let me back up. What we're going to do is we're going to try the original Stellum Bourbon and the Rye. And then we're also going to try a number of single barrel offerings that they're giving to me and seeing if they're any good. And if they are, those will be the single barrels that we choose. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to try to give you guys a fun opportunity to do something that you might not always get to do. And so the idea is I'm going to send you 6 of these samples. 2 of them have the regular bourbon and then the rye, and then the other 4 are going to be the single barrel samples that they sent me. So basically that's why these are half empty. I wanted to kind of give you the opportunity because I realize that not everybody has the option to do a single barrel, and this could be kind of fun for you. Like, this is what it should taste like, and then here's a couple of special releases that literally nobody else gets to try, unless of course I pick it. But if you are the winner, I will also talk to you a little bit about what we might want to name it. So I'm going to let you help me to name the release because I think that'd be really fun to do. So the entry is the usual. It's like a $5 super chat, and then we'll collect all the names, and at the end I'll pick a winner and I'll ship these out to you. So just don't mind that thing's going to come up every like 10 minutes or so, but I thought this was a fun thing to do. And if this works out well, whenever I do a single barrel, I'll do a similar concept. All right, so let's talk about actually, while people are kind of rolling in, let's just talk about where the heck I've been. So I know that I haven't been being as consistent as maybe I have been in the past, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. The number one reason, actually, and one of the more fun reasons, is that I have been I went traveling. I went to Alaska. And I didn't want to make it like a big deal on social media. Obviously, I don't want people to know I'm gone for like a week. But I did go to Alaska, and it was really awesome. And I'm going to do the relative who took a long trip kind of thing and show you guys a couple of pictures, but literally there's like 4. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun to show it off. So this was like a series of mountains. Basically, this was our view out of our cabin, almost like half the trip. And just looking at that is freaking beautiful. That was, let's see, I think that was the Icy Strait Point, which is, maybe halfway up the coast of Alaska. And it was just awesome. It looked like that. That was actually on our way back from seeing a glacier, which if I'm picking the right one here, no, I'm not. I actually only picked a couple of pictures. Here we go. Yes, here we go. So this is the glacier that we saw. Actually, I saw this off of the boat, and it was one of the coolest things that you could imagine. So you are standing on this piece of land that's probably about a mile away, maybe even more. And whenever the wind blows, it's like a 30-degree drop in temperature because the wind is blowing over the top of the glacier and just cooling down the air. And it was one of the coolest things. I was there with my wife and my 2 kids, as well as some of my wife's family and stuff. So I actually, believe it or not, I barely had any whiskey for about a week, which is rare, but it was very, very cool. Now, speaking of whiskey, I'm going to talk about Westland in a minute as well, but another one of these things. So this was right off of our balcony on our ship. Very cool. And then this was a black bear that I saw, and I thought he looked a little derpy, so I included this as well. I just thought that look alone. I need to do something with this picture. I wish it was a little bit clearer, but I also didn't want to be close enough to the bear to get a clearer picture. So it wasn't just all about traveling to Alaska. One of the other things I did while I was there was I actually went to the Westland Distillery. And the Westland Distillery is in Seattle, which is where our port was. And our hotel was probably about 2 miles away. So I had to walk. I took an Uber there, and then I walked home mostly because the Ubers were, imagine a 2-mile ride for like $30. Just absolutely stupid. Barley got huge. I love that. Actually, Barley is right over there. He's chewing on something. So if you do end up hearing him bark in probably about an hour, there's people coming over. So anyway, so I went to the Westland Distillery, and the distillery itself it's actually pretty cool. It's very large inside, and there's a lot of stills, and a lot more than I was expecting, actually. I figured they'd be a little bit smaller, even though they're fairly national. They're not huge, you know, but what they do have a huge area of is warehouse. So they had a bunch stored there, right, like in downtown Seattle, but then they also have a separate warehouse that they store everything. Now, this picture that you're seeing here was a flight that I did. They had the Calair, I believe that's how it's pronounced, so we'll just pretend like I know what I'm talking about. The Calair 3, the Gariana 7, the Stellum, and then they had this hand-fill 7431, which I'll show you some stats about because it was kind of cool. But the Calair 1 and 2, I actually got to try. I'm sorry, the name is escaping me, so if you happen to be in chat, let me know. Somebody sent me the number 1 and number 2, and I actually had them pretty much the week before I left, so it was actually great. I had them recently on the mind. Yeah, we were totally talking about Westland on the Stellum stream. Anyway, so the Calair 3, I remember I did like it quite a bit. I know I put out a short where I was kind of like, you know, this one's good, this one's... And I think the Gariana was like a middle of the road. The Solum, if I remember, I kind of liked. Now the hand fill, let me show you some details about that here. And I'll kind of scroll this up. Whoops, that's the wrong picture. Let's do this one. So I'll kind of scroll this up. It was a single cask. It was 8 years old. They finished it for 3 years, which is a long time to finish something. They've got more detail than most of us would know what to do with. The original fill date was 2015, first fill rye. It was Black Raven Brewing. That's what they did. They fiddled around with one of the local brewery, which is always fun. And then Pour Less Owisow Farmhouse Saison, or yeah. Anyway, there was a whole bunch of stuff about this, and I'll throw this up in the Discord if anybody actually wants to look a little bit closer. I'll do that later tonight. But yeah, I traveled to Westland, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, thanks for humoring me while we kind of talked about that. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Stellum here. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to do this video a little bit like a normal Whiskey Dick episode, except I have the benefit of actually having my my notes right in front of me, which is fantastic. Usually when I'm recording, I'm memorizing everything there is to know and then spit it out and then immediately leaves my brain. Some of the more memorable distilleries do stay in there, and, you know, you kind of learn stuff as you go. But, like, I couldn't tell you who the master distiller of really anywhere is unless they're like a celebrity distiller. But let's talk about Stellum. So Stellum is made by the same folks that make barrel craft spirits. And actually, I'm going to use this moment, if you don't mind me being a bit of a shill. So I did a single barrel with barrel craft spirits that actually just it's been technically shipping for a while. There was a bit of a thing going on with Starward, which I'll talk about in a bit. I actually meant to talk about it at the top of the show, but we'll go into it in a little bit. But if you're interested in any of my barrel selects, you can go to whiskeydickpicks.com, DICPICKS. Name was perfect, and you can find it down in the description, I'm sure. So, made by the same people who make barrel craft spirits, Stellum was an attempt to make something consistent. Because if you've had barrel craft, you know that their stuff is actually almost ubiquitously good. And I would say the same thing for like Compass Box, like where I will pull any Compass Box off the shelf, even though it might be expensive, I'm sure I'm going to enjoy that whiskey, right? Same thing with barrel. If I pulled any batch off of the shelf of barrel, I know it's going to taste pretty good, even if it's a bit expensive. So they know this. They know that they make an awesome product, but they also know it's expensive. So the intent, thank you, Steve. The intent was that actually, I think, Steve, you've probably received most of my giveaways because you're always very generous. So thank you so much. I think that what they wanted to do is they wanted to create this concept of a cheaper yet still very good whiskey. And so because of that, they're all blended and they're no age statement. And there is a little bit more detail I'll give you about each one of these individually. But it was first launched in March of 2021. So it's only been around for a couple of years now. So they've been, I remember when this came out, I actually totally missed the boat on reviewing it. I'm never really the guy to be the first one to review any whiskeys. I mostly just pick up things that I think people would like to hear about. If you want your very first people who talk about stuff, go to Jason from Mash and Drum, or maybe it's Bourbon Night. They're probably the best ones for that. All right, but anyway, this was founded by a guy named Joe Beatrice, and the whole point was he was actually a mountain climber, which I thought was cool. It has nothing to do with the story. It's just I was a rock climber for a lot of years, and so for me this was interesting. But he named it Stellum, after the Latin for stars and whatever else. So he founded this with the intent of giving a cheaper product to people who might want it. But here's where the heavy hitter comes in. Now, Trip Stimson, many of you will know. Oh, actually, sorry. This is Joe Beatrice. Now, this is Trip Stimson. Now, Trip is somebody I've talked to personally on, I believe, Clifton McDaniel on, what's his name? Bourbon Bites. Jeez. I know his real name, but not his name of his channel very well. Now, Clifton has had Trip on his channel more times than I think we could count. And because of that, I hopped on one time and I talked to Trip, and I was just like, hey, let's talk about your newest batch or whatever like that. I actually kind of forget exactly what we might have talked about, but I do remember the guy was awesome. I know I talked about his beard, because how could you not? Look at this thing. Look at that manicure. It's like, boom. So, sorry, Trip, if you're watching this, but whatever. It's epic. So, very nice guy. Obviously, this is where it's cool, is he is a genius, right? He doesn't call himself a master blender or anything like that. He's a whiskey scientist. And actually, let me read his exact title. He's a chief whiskey scientist and chief of distillery operations. And he is a good guy to do it, because he clearly knows what he's doing. He's been doing barrel forever. So cool that they brought him in on this, and I couldn't imagine them not. But then finally, there's another person named Nick Christensen, and they are the blender and manager of blending operations. Now, she is going to be that person that's off in the back room with the droppers, kind of dripping drop by drop of various different whiskeys and smelling their effects and whatever else, and getting the blend perfect. So my guess is that her and Trip basically work very closely together. Let's see. Mamuka says, I am beerless and hairless. I'm guessing you meant beardless. And I think it's consequences of being married. Well, I would guess the beerless would probably be the opposite of the consequence of being married, but I'm going to assume that's a typo. All right. So, like I said, she's meticulously kind of smelling this stuff, putting this together, and she is responsible for making sure the consistency is perfect, but also has a hand in doing the single barrel program. So I may or may not talk with them directly, but we'll see. Now, the initial offerings of Stellum is the regular bourbon, which was released in March of 2021, the rye, which was released in March of 2021, and then they immediately went into doing single barrels, which, even though like this whole point of this entire episode is to talk about me potentially doing a single barrel with them, let's talk about the irony of them taking essentially what is not a single barrel, but like a batched system where they're really like at the mercy of what's in the barrel, and then starting up this other one that they blend it to have a very consistent flavor, and then immediately doing single barrels. I guess you know what you know. But either way, so those are the 4 offerings that they started with, but they did expand out to 2 more styles, which are kind of like a reserve, if you want to consider it that, but they call it the black. So they have like Stellum Bourbon Black, or Black Bourbon, I think. And those are from their older reserves. They're roughly about the same ABV. However, they are older. And thus, because whiskey is whiskey, there's a good chance it's better, right? But let's talk about the bourbon. So the bourbon is now, both of these are going to be sourced from undisclosed locations in Indiana, Tennessee, and Kentucky. So that's going to be the same for all of them, just for the sake of me repeating myself. This bourbon is 114.98 proof. So what is that, like 50 something? 57.49%. So it's a good amount. I will say, you guys know I like high ABV stuff, but I will admit that there is usually, what's the word? Not deprecating returns, but diminishing returns. There's diminishing returns when you go over 60%. Usually at that point, it's almost like eating a hot wing just for the sake of it being hot rather than the sake of it being delicious. There are exceptions, and I've had exceptions, but usually if it's over 60, I look at that and I say, oh boy, this is going to be good. Never mind 70. That's a whole different ballgame. So Chance says MGT, Barton, and Dickel, and that would probably be my guess as well. But I'm not sure. Like, I honestly don't know. Let's see. All right, so it's no age statement. It's got an undisclosed mash bill, which is probably more the combination of it being blended from various things. Obviously, we're not going to have a mash bill that makes sense. And then this is where it's cool. This bourbon is only $55, which, I mean, bourbons, you can buy all kinds of range. But for something from barrel, for them to basically cut their price in half, good for them. I think that's a great choice, and I love why they did that. So we're going to jump into the bourbon in a moment. And then I'm going to talk about the two. Actually, you know what? I'll do that now, just because I think this could work. So we're going to taste the bourbon, just so we have a kind of like a what do you call it? A baseline for us to go from. Then we're going to have this first one and then the second one, and we're going to see. And I'm going to take Nick's face down. Sorry about that, Nick. Get out of there. All right. So this one's 110, this one's 114, and like I said, this one is 114. So they're all basically in the same amount of ABV, which is wonderful, because I think it will really go well together. So the first single barrel I'll do, and I'll talk about this again in a minute, is 5-year Indiana, 75% corn, 21% rye, and 4% malted barley. That's interesting. That's interesting. So I think maybe I actually did not get all of the information. So I took what they gave me, which oftentimes when you're doing a single barrel is not super detailed. Other times it will be super detailed. But in this case, what they actually told me is just what came from Indiana. And I think that's interesting. All right. Like I said, it's 114.52, and there's going to be roughly, quick math, like 75 bottles or so. The other one is the same, 75 corn, 21% rye, 4% malted barley. It's 110.56, and then there's going to be a couple, like maybe 12 more. All right, let's jump into the bourbon, because it's been a little while, and I've talked a lot, and I haven't had a drink yet. And for any of you that are sitting around waiting for me to drink, or waiting to drink yourself, I would like you to join me. If anybody has Stellum at home, let me know. I'd be curious to know, because I haven't had the blacks yet. Be curious to know if you feel that the black is worth trying over the regulars, because I wouldn't mind picking up both, and then maybe even just doing a kind of like a longer form, not longer form because this is an hour-long thing, but something where I talk about them all. All right. So let's. Okay, so like I said, this is 114.98, no age statement, $55, all kinds of stuff. Let's go ahead and give this a nose. All right. Well, it's definitely a bourbon. And hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. So remind me to talk about the Canadian content, but boy, did that video just absolutely flop. I mean, I will tell you that there was no video this week or last week, partially because that one was so demotivating. Wasn't the entire reason. But I actually think I might have caught COVID when I got off the ship. I didn't realize it because I had some of those old COVID tests, and I took one and it said negative and everything, but the symptoms match up, so it's a little tough to say. But yeah, man, I think that video's still at like 600 something views, which if a video doesn't do 1,000 views in a day, I usually consider it a flop. So it's been a couple weeks and it's still at 600 or so. All right. Sorry, Barley's distracting. Hey, Barley, come here. Come here. All right, let's pull the dog on the stream. Come here. Come here. Come here. No, not happening. We'll see. Maybe later. All right, let's go back into this. Oh, of course, now he comes over. Here, come here, bud. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here, fatty. Ugh. Say hi. Who's that? You really do look like a bear. You look like a bear. All right. Okay, back to this. Hey, Sugar Kitty. Actually didn't even know you were there. That was great. All right, so vanilla, caramel, oak, the usuals. What I'm actually getting on here that's like unique is kind of nothing, except that in itself is a bit unique. It smells. At this high of an ABV, there is virtually no alcohol detection there. So that's pretty nice. There might be a slight hint of licorice there on the nose as well. So yeah, a lot of the same stuff as usual. Caramel, cinnamon, oak, whatever. All right, let's go ahead and have a taste. Cheers, everybody. Happy Friday. Now you can see I have not had much of this. I had a little bit earlier just to take some general notes so I wouldn't have to be you know, beholden to trying to figure it out on a stream. I'm not good at that. I think we've seen that more times than I can count. But trying to pick apart this one, I think the number one good factor about just regular Stellum bourbon here is that it is fairly smooth. There's a little sting from the ABV just to let you know it's there, but it's not overpowering. Pretty much only exists on the tip of your tongue, which is a good sign. And it kind of livens up your mouth, actually. Now, Chance, I'm curious, do you know what... they might have been single barrels, because actually even Total Wine had single barrels out. But if it was much over, like, $60, I would agree with you that it's probably overpriced. But it should be anywhere in the 50s. All right, so... other than that smoothness, which this will be interesting when I taste the single barrels, because I'm actually wondering exactly what I would want out of this that's different. And the only thing I can think of is there's a sweetness here that I wish was just a little bit stronger. And I think if I can pick out a sweetness on the single barrel, that actually could make this worth it. Thank you, Mamuka. So let's see. All right, let me try one more. Okay, so cinnamon for sure. The oak barrel's not coming through as much as I would have expected, and I feel like maybe if it did a little bit more, I wouldn't get just that sting on the tip of your tongue. The sweetness is nice. I wouldn't call it honey, though. I would call it more like sugar, like just a refined sugar, like, or maybe, you know, actually, I'm gonna mix the. Sorry, somebody rang the doorbell, so of course the dog's barking. I'm going to say it's like a Demerara sugar because there is a bit of a molasses thing going on here, along with that sweetness makes me think of that. So, sorry, give me one sec. Barley, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Come here. Come here, bud. Come here. Come here. All right, I'm going to just pet him to keep him happy. We have like 4 kids here too, so that's why he's in my office rather than upstairs. But it is what it is. Barley deserves to be among his whiskeys. Bork. Yep. Now what I need to do is stop drinking this, which I will say that's a good sign. I think the number one benefit to this is that it's super drinkable. And that's what I'm going to give Stellum just regular bourbon for now. For a $55, I think you could sit on the couch and drink this all night. You could add an ice cube to it if you wanted to, or so you could like add some water to it. I don't think this one would be worse at a lower ABV. If I didn't have to drink like 6 different whiskeys tonight, I would probably do that, and maybe I'll do it towards the end, but we'll see what happens. All right, so let's go ahead and try the first Stellum single barrel. This one's going to be it's called Lyra W3, and check this out. I know I made them. Hold on. I made things for this, and I'm going to put them up because it took time. I think I just never added them. All right, so we're going to go here. Boom. And then drag that. Sorry about this. Try so hard to be prepared, and you always forget about something, and that's totally fine. All right, so this is the Lyra. I'll go Lyra. Lyra G6. It's 5-year Indiana, 75% corn, 21 rye, and 4% malted barley. So this should be pretty good. All right. So let's see. Now, just as a reminder to anybody who came in, $5 super chat gets you entered to win these 6 sample bottles. One is the regular bourbon, one's the regular rye, and then the other 4 are the single barrels that I'm actually trying tonight. So you could kind of do this on your own at home and see if you agree with me. See if you were responsible for picking a single barrel. What would you say yes to? What would you say no to? It's probably harder than you think. Knowing that you've got, money on the line and that you want to make people happy, you don't want to pick a dud. It's cool. It's actually a fun responsibility. All right, so I can tell you right off the bat, the nose on this is a bit different. Now, I like that I went out and got these. So the nose on the second one, on the first single barrel, we'll just call it we'll call it B2. All right. So B1 will be the initial. This is B2, and the other one's B3. So B2, the nose is not as full or not as robust as the first one. The scents are a little harder to pick up, but it is mostly the same. And now this is, I believe this one is slightly lower ABV. It is. It's only 2% less. So I'm not entirely sure if that would be what's contributing to this or if there's something else. But it's definitely still cinnamon. It's got a little bit more clove on the nose here. It's not as sweet. And it's got almost like an earthy flavor to the nose here. So let's go ahead and try this up. Cheers, everybody. That flavor is way different. Okay. So, my dog is so weird. He's licking a metal chair. Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? All right. Anyway, sorry. All right. The taste here is, I don't think it's going to do it for me. It is different though. So that's a good sign. And I'm thinking that maybe the other one at the higher ABV is going to be it. Now, the good news is they only sent me 2 of each of these. So a lot of times I'll get like 5 and it's easy to eliminate some. With 2, it's going to be harder because I'll want to, one will clearly be better than the other, but the real question is, are either one of them good enough to sell? I'm not confident that this one would be. And a lot of it's going to depend on price point, even if I pick one. Okay. This one drinks a little bit hot. It feels like maybe it's just not sitting in the barrel quite so long. The cinnamon is coming out a bit more. It's kind of like a classic it's a classic underaged bourbon flavor. So I'm going to put that one to the side for the moment. And I'm going to pull out the third one here because I'd like to make some progress. We're doing good on time, but still. All right. I'm going to pour this one and I'm going to have a quick sip of water just to cleanse the palate. And I'm really hoping that this one's good. Now, I will say I am indifferent whether I pick a bourbon or a rye for my next one. My hope is that I could pick one of each. My real hope is that Whiskey Dick Picks gets a little bit more supplies on it. Having only 2 single barrels available at the moment is limiting. I want to have, and that's actually part of the reason I'm working with Stellum, is I wanted to have a cheaper option because at the moment the Radiant Red Solera from Starward is I think $79, and then the Apricot Affair is I believe $110, which I get is expensive, but it's really good. Now the Radiant Red Solera, that's its whole other problem, which I'll tell you after we finish with this one because I want to keep the flavor fresh. All right, let's go ahead and give this a nose. Off to a good start. This one is a bit sweeter on the nose, which is nice. That's exactly what I was looking for. It's a little bit earthy, in a good way in this case. The other one, it was earthy in like an unaged way. This one's earthy in, I bet that this is going to be a very robust flavor. Well, let's see. All right. Cheers, everybody. Okay. Eric, I didn't even realize it. So Eric, wait, thank you for joining, Eric. He says Stellum backwards is mullets. Too bad him and I can't grow one. Speak for yourself. This is a choice. It's a choice that was forced upon me, but it was a choice. All right. This one has a pretty good flavor. This one I'm going to go back to. What I'm really looking forward to, because my guess is that this will probably go up for sale for like 65 or so. And I want to make sure it's worth it over the 55. Slapping my name on something, it doesn't mean that something should be more expensive. Having me pick something delicious is what should make it more expensive. So I'm not entirely sold on this one right off the bat, but I am. It's definitely better than the first one. We'll see. I'm hemming and hawing mostly because I'm just not sure, which is exactly why one hems and haws. All right. Hey, Taylor. Nice to see you. And by the way, nice to see everybody here. I'm sorry if I didn't shout out your name. Carlos, Go Habs, Chance, Taylor, Sugar Kitty, Alex. Nice to see you, Alex. And everybody else who joins in the future. So if you are joining in the future, I actually would love to hear, first off, have you ever tried Stellum? Second, if you have, what's your general opinion of the brand? Do you like the bourbon or do you like the rye? Because if it does come down to me picking one or the other, I'm probably going to go bourbon. Mostly because I feel like it'll sell better, but also I'd be tempted to have a rye on the site because I actually really like ryes, and the amount of variety in rye is limiting. Like it's just not often. It's not often that a rye comes on the market that blows everybody away. But oh man, Booker's rye, it's like nothing I've ever had in my life. It's so good. All right. So while this one sits for a minute, let me tell you a little bit about Starward, especially for anybody who actually bought the Starward single barrel pick that I did along with the Apricot Affair. You would have already received your Apricot Affair, and if you've had it, tell me in the chat what you think about it. Hopefully you're loving it. But with the Starward pick, so this was a bit of a nightmare. Starward isn't really the problem here. It's the shipping from Australia. And so, you know, there's a certain amount of leeway. But the problem is that I purchased this in April and I started pre-selling it in early May or maybe even late April. And people still haven't gotten it. And the reason for that is the delay. It's a barrel sitting in New Jersey at the moment and has been for the last few months waiting to go through customs. And that's kind of BS. So the people from Starboard are awesome, actually. I've been talking to them pretty much the entire time. Like, what the heck? Get me my barrel, blah, blah, blah. This sucks. And so I told them, finally, I said, look, here's the way that you guys should make this right. I've got a number of people who are waiting to receive both of these bottles that bought them at the same time, and we've been delaying shipping because the Starward's not ready, and we don't want to charge them twice for shipping or eat the cost ourselves. And I said, so you guys should eat the cost. And they said, totally fine. And so they actually ended up paying for the shipping for everybody who got their Apricot Affair that had bought it as a combo package. So pretty awesome. I mean, that's literally what I told them would make me feel better about it in my mind, and they did it, and so I feel pretty good about it. But yeah, it's really, really annoying. I'm wondering how many problems like Jason runs into, knowing he does like 40 friggin' picks a year, if not more. I wonder about the problems that he ends up running into, and maybe I should pick his brain a little bit. All right, so this rye is sat for a little bit. So let me tell you about the rye, just the regular rye first. So the rye is also sourced from undisclosed distilleries in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana. So take from that what you will. But it's 116.2 proof, not ABV. That'd be weird. Breaking the laws of physics. It's a no age statement, and it's also $55. Now, here's the cool part. I bought this, and it was on sale, so instead of $55, it was actually only $35, which had me worried, but also had me excited, because even if it wasn't very good, a $35 whiskey is still a $35 whiskey, and I'm sure I can find a reason to drink it. So when I smell this, actually, the Irish Spring comes to mind, which is interesting, like the soap. Maybe because that's what I use, and I definitely recognize that smell. Now, often when I smell soap in a glass, I worry that maybe it just didn't get clean, but I actually drank some of this from this glass about an hour before the stream, so I know that it's not soap, dish soap. So Mamuka says every time he gets eucalyptus in a rye, he's done. Yeah, I don't mind that, but I get what you're saying. There's definitely two very different types of flavor profiles in rye. You get like the crazy herb rye, and you get really spicy rye. And I definitely lean more towards the spicy rye, but I do know that this one is pretty herbaceous. Yeah, $35. That was a hell of it. Like I should have bought more than one, but I also had no idea if I liked it or not. All right. Cheers. I forgot to talk about the nosing notes, but that's fine. All right. On the taste here, like I said, it is a little vegetal. It's not crazy, though. It's It's definitely there. There's no mistaking it. This is the way it goes. But what this also has is a decent blend of both the vegetal and that spiciness. Where the very first thing I taste is a combination of like grass and mint. That's cool. But then I also pick up some fruits like pears, which is surprising to get on the back end of that. So the spearmint is definitely the heavier of the two. Well, so Alex, you're talking about my Weller antique. So I've got an antique and I have the Weller Reserve up there, special reserve. You know, just because I have them, like the antique's not open even, which makes me even more of a tater, I suppose. So good for me. But regardless, it's they're there. I had an opportunity to buy them both, so I did. All right. There's like an elusive citrus note here, and I'm trying to decide whether I feel like it's lemon or orange. And I think I would lean heavier with the orange than the lemon. But either way, the one thing I will say about the flavor on this is I wouldn't say it's well blended. I would say this one is one that each individual part really sticks out. So you can take some time with this and figure it out, which is cool. I do enjoy when that happens because it's, you know, it's more, it's not a sit in front of the TV and sip and just brainlessly have 5 or 6 whiskeys. I might have done that a couple nights ago. It is more so about sitting and figuring it out, which is a good practice. Sorry, I'm just I'm reading the chat here. Is anything like barrel seagrass or dovetail? I wouldn't say so. I do have some seagrass, but it's just today I cleaned in here because I had to, and I shoved it under a thing over there, so I won't be able to get it during the stream. But I wouldn't say it's like the seagrass. The apricot, oh, maybe that's what it is. I said that it was orange, but now I'm thinking it's more like an apricot. And that's interesting because the apricot, obviously I called the single barrel I did Apricot Affair. That's pretty heavy in that one. But for this, I don't know. I'd say it's definitely more of a hint. So very interesting. All right, now that I know what that tastes like, I'm going to drink a little water, and then I'm going to have my other 2 samples here. Not for a price ago, but now, but hey, I like, oh, okay. Not for the prices that they go for now. Yeah, always good when I have to figure out other people's typos live on stream. All right, so this first one here, this is the D8. So forgive the smacking me right in the face here. So this is the D8. So this is 4-year Indiana, 95% rye, 5% malted barley. Big shock coming out of Indiana. But it is 58.12%. And yeah, so I left the bourbon image on there, but that's okay. I hid it before you noticed because you totally didn't notice. All right. So this one is, okay, I'm just rereading that a little bit. Okay, the nose on this is much different, like considerably different. Yeah. Hold on. Okay, there's the original rye, the mainline rye is leaning very heavy on that spearmint. It's reminding me, like, I chew 5 gum constantly, and spearmint's one of the ones I have, and it's reminding me of that a lot. On the smell here, I'm not getting that nearly as much, but it is a little sweeter, and it's a little heavier on the citrus, like that tangerine apricot thing note. I'm reading the chat at the same time. I'm thinking apricot, you're saying tangerine, and I totally get what you're getting at, and I'm not disagreeing, actually. All right, let's try a sip. Cheers, everybody. Ooh, that's a tasty whiskey. Ooh, that's a really tasty whiskey. And the aftertaste is actually really good, too. Wow, that's smooth. Okay, this is... Ooh, there's an aftertaste. Like a long, long aftertaste. There's the taste, then there's an aftertaste, and then there's like the finish. And the whole time it's smooth, and it's very sweet, and it's mostly sitting right in the center of my tongue. And the flavors that I'm dealing with here are fruity, like really fruity. There's no herb going on here whatsoever. This immediately skyrocketed. Like if I had to pick one of these at all, even the main lines, this one is the clear winner. That's really cool. Okay, that's great to hear. Hold on. This might be the one. I hope people like rye. Ooh, that's really good. It's so it's like, what is that? What would you call it when the whole of the inside of your mouth just dries out immediately? I never know what to refer to that as. But it's really nice. Let me see if I can give a little bit more, because this one's exciting here. So on the flavor, let me try a sip. I'm going to just block out the world here. Sorry, I swallowed in order to talk. Oh, this one's good. So this is R2 for anybody playing at home. How would I describe this one? I'm like totally blanking because I'm just enjoying it. It's smooth. I like that. Yeah, Alex said cottonmouth. That's not quite what I was getting at, because it's not like but it's like engaging every part of your entire mouth. Thanks, Taylor. I appreciate that. So Taylor, I'm gonna I have an easy way to see who's super chatted. So at the end, when I pick the winner to receive the 6 samples here, it'll be easy to know. So thank you, all. I really appreciate that. Yeah, no, I get it. I'm a little sad that the one that I'm really leaning towards is a rye, but you know, I got to pick the good ones when I get them. Okay, let's get back to this. There's actually a bit of a coffee flavor that's happening on the finish now, which I didn't get at first, but after I let it sit and dry for a minute, it's really good. So Taylor says in SMWS talk that would be spicy and dry. So cool, we'll go with that. So something that I would say would be a credit to this whiskey as far as the flavor goes is this is now the 5th whiskey I had, and it's the only thing I can taste. And it, like, by the 5th whiskey, especially 5th different whiskey, to be able to even taste the stuff is usually a bit of a feat. It's like a practiced skill, right? In this case, it just took over, and it was like, whether you want to taste me or not, I'm going to be here. I like it. Okay. I got no words. I'm going to have to actually put together a flavor profile for this. But the best thing I could say is it is low on rye spice, so it's approachable. It's very smooth, so it's enjoyable. It's got citrusy flavors, which is unexpected. It is not drinking at the ABV that it is, which is appreciated. And just everything about it is enjoyable. So that, I don't know. I'm not sure how to even put it better than that. I'm going to put this one to the side. There's not very much left in that, but all right, let me do the last one here. Sorry, buddy, you got a lot to live up to. Could you imagine if this one's better? Holy crap. So this one's Q5. All right, so this is going to be, boom, 58.82%. That's the only difference here. That, and it's a 4-year. The one before this was 4-year as well. Now I'm going to drink a little bit of water beforehand. More of the baking spices, not so much the licorice. Yes, that's a good way to put it. But even with the baking spices, sometimes those can be overpowering too. And nothing about that was overpowering, which that's what I'm loving about it. Ryes can be very off-putting for that reason a lot of times, and that's why I would drink that rye if it was just on the shelf, and I would offer it to friends and say, hey, this is a good rye to start enjoying ryes. Maybe a rye for a bourbon lover. So that might be a good way to think about it. Okay, off the nose, I'm not convinced that this one's going to be fantastic, but we'll see. It's more just there's not a whole lot going on in the nose. but it does smell a little bit more vegetal than the previous one. But let's see. Cheers. It's pretty good, but it's not the last one. Cool. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like it would have had to be amazing to outdo the last one. I do think, however, that this is probably better than the mainline offering. This is still better than the main. Had I tried this one first, I would probably be like, wow, this is great. And then I would have gone to the other one, but like, holy crap. Okay. So for me, B2 is the clear-cut winner here. But I do want to try, I said B2, I meant R2. R2 is the clear-cut winner here, but I want to try B2 one more time. Now, B2 was the second version of the bourbon, as you could imagine. That's not what I meant to do. All right. There's quite a bit left in here, but I'm gonna add to it anyway. All right. Let me drink just a little bit more water. I wish I could show you a picture of my derpy dog. He's laying on the ground just like eating something, but man, he's such a fluff ball. He does look like a bear. R2 is clearly better. All the Star Wars fans agree. Then C-3PO, of course. I mean, C-3PO is a dork. But R2-D2 is better than BB-8 for sure. Like, without a doubt. Are there any other... Well, IG-86, I think? IG-86, I'm pretty sure. Now, that's a cool droid. Although, yeah, he would totally... I don't know. See, I feel like in the right circumstances, R2-D2 would find a way to beat IG-86. But I also... Yeah, it is IG-86. Ah, nailed it. But what the hell are we talking about right now? Don't try to distract me with Star Wars, because I'll let it happen. No, I gotta say, I could be persuaded to pick a bourbon from Stellum, but I could not be persuaded to pick either one of those two. I do think B2 was pretty good, but I don't think it's something that I would put my reputation on. However, that R2, man, holy crap. And I almost, I do wonder, I mean, I obviously can't call it R2-D2, but what was it? It was R2-D8. Maybe that's the name. R2-D8. Because that's pretty much right there. I actually, well, whoever ends up winning, we'll have to talk about it. All right, so that was cool. I've got that. I actually have something else in store for you guys, because I'm working on a new format for these live streams, because I'd like to do them more, but I always run out of I always have trouble figuring out what I want to do to actually try to be entertaining for an hour. It's harder than it seems, or maybe it's exactly as hard as it seems. So let's do what everybody loves, and let's do a quiz. So, what is the name of the chief whiskey scientist at Stellum? This is the guy's picture with his face. Tell me, A, B, C, or D? I could try juggling? Dude, I don't need to try. I can totally juggle. Let's see. What do I... Oh, you know what? Yeah. While you guys are throwing up your answers, let's see. I'm going to juggle some D20s. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, here we go. Hold on. They're so light. They're so tiny. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Haha. Yeah. I actually taught myself how to juggle a long, long time ago, and it's just kind of stuck with me. So let's see. Well, we got a couple answers. You guys are slow. Although maybe it's just a little lagged. It's probably a little lagged, but that's okay. So you guys are getting it across the board. Okay, so that one was easy. No problem. All right, here's question number 2. Well, so for anybody watching at home, the answer is Trip Stimson, which was C. All right, question 2 is, what year was Stellum created? Bonus points for the month. Was it A, 1987, B, 1998, C, 2022, or D, 2021? Now let's see what you guys think. Also, last chance for anybody to get their super chats in to be entered into the drawing. At the moment, you've got a pretty fair chance of winning, actually. Let's see. Viewer activity. I think we have probably like 10 entries. No, we only have 8 entries, actually. So you've basically, if you enter, you've got a 20% chance of winning. All right, so let's see. We've got Mamuka Matthew, Canadian Chris got it and got the month, and Taylor got the right answer and the month as well. Excellent. All right, question number 3. This is the last question. What's the new older age Stellum on the market? Is it green, black, reserve, or special reserve? I told you these questions were easy. In the future, when I'm prepping for these, I'm going to make them a little harder. But, you know, I figured it'd be kind of interesting to see how well you guys paid attention. And so far, you all paid very well, very good attention. Either that or I'm a very good teacher. All right. Cool. So, like I said, last chance, I'm going to give you guys, so it's 8:53 right now. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes. If anybody wants to enter the thing, at least make it worth my shipping cost, please. You can receive this at home and kind of do this yourself. And I would be very interested to know if you come to the same conclusion as me. So, let's don't do a Menno level quiz. I don't really know. Oh, like, okay. What is the, actually,
someone is at the front door.
I made my Alexa talk in Australian because it's hilarious. So, okay. So what was I trying to say? Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. Let's just see. So I had some more, a couple more things real quick. If you guys have tried the apricot affair, let me know. I mentioned that. Oh, Aquavite's quiz. Okay. Oh, Menno does really nasty ones. Yeah, well, actually, so I don't know if I told you guys this. I think I might have. I was trying to get a thank you, Mamuka. I was trying to do something last year where I was gonna do kind of like a, you know how like what was it? Who even did it? It was ADHD Whiskey. How he did the tasting competition, like between everybody. I was on that. I actually didn't do very well, but it was really fun. And I had the same idea, except I was going to do like a whiskey trivia contest among all the whiskey tubers and see who kind of knows the best. And I even had the trophy made beforehand, and it was cool. It was a barrel stave, and it said 2023, you know, whiskey trivia champion or something like that. And I wanted to do that, but just the logistics didn't work out, and I didn't get enough people to sign up. But I think I might try to do that for 2024. Because I would like to host something and do like a reason to kind of do this every week. And I think it'd be fun. Anyway. All right. So we've got all of the entries that I am going to allow at this point. So here's what I'm going to do. Steve, give me a sec. And all right. Cool. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask Steve, since you were the first person to super chat, I'm going to ask you to pick a number, 1 through, sorry, times 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, so Steve, I'd like you to pick a number 1 through 10, and then I will tell you who wins. And I'm basically jumble these up until I see your answer. 7, all right. So Alex was number 1, Steve A, you were 2, 3, Chris was 4, 5, and Mamuka was 6, 7, and 8. So Mamuka, you are the winner, and I will send these over to you. I'm sure I already have your address, but I'll probably email you just in case. All right, so thank you everybody for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary, and let me know what you thought of this format. This was a little bit different than what I usually do. I thought it was fun. And I'd like to kind of do this with a little bit more foresight than I did before. I love that Mamuka has made a typo in everything he's typed today. And Yeah, so thank you guys all for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary, and I will see you when I see you. I can't say next week because I know myself, but the next time I live stream, I'll see you guys then. If not, check out my videos, and yeah, I'll stop delaying. Bye.